losing midwives out of burnout. People are just being absolutely stretched to the brink.
It's International Day of the Midwife on May 5th, and just ahead, midwives want British Columbians to recognize the pressure they're facing during the pandemic.
Again, I reiterate from all chief medical officers that the AstraZeneca vaccine deployed in the middle of a third wave has saved lives and prevented serious illnesses.
The Public Health Agency of Canada tries to clarify NACI's COVID vaccine advice that you can wait for your preferred vaccine if you live in a low-risk area.
There are 697 new cases of COVID-19 across the province tonight. One more person has died in the last day. 486 people are currently in hospital, with 173 in intensive care. More than 1.9 million doses of the vaccine have been administered across BC so far, and as of today, pregnant people over the age of 16 are eligible to book their vaccination appointment.
Again, I reiterate from all chief medical officers that the AstraZeneca vaccine deployed in the middle of a third wave has saved lives and prevented serious illnesses.
If there's one clear message coming from federal health officials, it's this. All the approved Canadian COVID vaccines are safe and effective. But many Canadians want to know why the National Advisory Committee on Immunization says you can wait for an mRNA shot if you don't want AstraZeneca or J&J. Canada's top doctor trying to clear the confusion by saying, if you're not certain, just stick with what your local public health officer says.
There are differences in how you look at benefits and risks depending on the disease activity within your jurisdiction or your local community, as well as your own risk in terms of your age or your risk factors. And the local public health department also takes into account the supply, logistic, and other operational elements.
Many Canadians say NACI's advice seems to conflict with frequent calls to get the first shot you can.
The way we get through this pandemic is to get vaccinated with whatever vaccine is offered to us as quickly as possible.
But Dr. Teresa Tam says this is an issue of informed consent. The government can't force you to take vaccines, and NACI is telling Canadians about the risks of blood clots associated with certain vaccines to ensure people know what they're taking on.
We just have to have an honest conversation about it. I think we can enable people to make an informed decision. And of course, in the context of a public health emergency with potentially life-saving vaccines, you've got to enable people to make an informed decision and give them that option.
There's also no update yet on what Public Health or Health Canada has decided on mixed dosing, when someone gets 2 doses of different vaccines. Canadian health officials say they're watching other countries who are mixing doses to see what results will be, but has no decision yet.
If I was to speculate, this is pure speculation. This is not the data. This is pure speculation. It's very, very likely that this is going to be not only a safe thing to do, but also a very effective thing to do. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of that probably in the weeks and months ahead.
Meanwhile, there is some good news about Moderna doses. 1 million doses expected to arrive next week will be arriving this week. Coupled with Pfizer, this means over 3 million mRNA shots are set to arrive in Canada by the weekend. In Ottawa, Xiaoli Li, City News.
Alberta bringing in tougher restrictions as they look to curb a COVID-19 spike that has seen the province with the highest number of cases per capita in the country. Schools K-12 moving online until May the 25th. Restaurants move to takeout only. Personal wellness services such as hair and nail salons are being shut down, and retail capacity numbers are dropping to 10%. Most of the restrictions are set to start over the weekend. And in an effort to ramp up enforcement, Alberta's premier announcing an increase to fines in an effort to ensure Albertans follow the public health orders.
We just wanted to take the opportunity to celebrate some good news.
Midwives support BC's growing families and have helped reduce the burden on hospitals during the pandemic. For the first time in Vancouver, the city has proclaimed May 5th the Day of the Midwife. Sarah Nolden put the idea forward to the city herself.
And I think there's a great opportunity to get the word out about what we do.
But while she says it is a day to celebrate midwives, it's also a time to recognize the demands of the job during the pandemic. There are only 300 319 registered midwives in BC, and they help deliver a quarter of all the babies in the province.
We are responsible for about 26% of the deliveries in BC. So that's the highest number in Canada and the second highest in North America. Our demand is going up at the same time as we're losing midwives out of burnout. People are just being absolutely stretched to the brink. So there is a real crisis for our services right now.
1 in 5 midwives in BC report wanting to leave the profession, and between January and April this year, 17 midwifery clinics have posted positions. Midwives have struggled in the past to get government support.
I think it's a numbers game. I think, because we're only about 300 province-wide, I think, we're a relatively newly integrated profession. There's this still this great work for us to do to raise awareness of what we do.
Home births are among the things midwives facilitate, and some others say the pandemic cemented their decision for an at-home birth.
I didn't want to panic about being restricted by what if hospital changes their rules and then my husband suddenly can't come, or my doula or my birth photographer can't come. Not to mention being in a hospital in the time of the pandemic, being anxious about what potentially is coming home with us.
Parents can also meet their midwives more often than their family doctor.
It's just that continuity of care. When you work with a midwife, you work with a midwife team, there's like 3 or 4 of them, you get to meet all of them, and they also care for you postpartum as well. So that's super attractive.
It is attractive. 89% of midwives report an increased interest in home births during the pandemic. Nolden says midwives are currently in contract negotiations with the government to get benefits that match what their colleagues receive.
As a smaller group, we just have to raise our voices a little bit louder in order to get a similar treatment.
In Vancouver, Kier Junos, City News.
The first appearance by a wealthy Vancouver couple accused of being COVID vaccine tourists in Yukon was brief and not in person. A lawyer appearing on behalf of Rodney and E. Katerina Baker by phone asked for and was quickly granted an adjournment for 2 weeks. The next court appearance has been set for May 18th. Today's hearing in Whitehorse lasted only 3 minutes. The former CEO of Great Canadian Gaming and his wife face up to 6 months in jail if they're convicted of charges laid in January under the Territory's Emergency Measures Act. They're accused of failing to self-isolate and failing to act in a manner consistent with their declarations upon arrival.
We've already committed to work to send 60 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine to other countries starting this month and into June.
Will Canada be receiving some of those doses? And what about other U.S.-made vaccines? Joe Biden's export pledge.
A woman has been seriously hurt after being attacked by a cougar in her yard. She had to be airlifted to hospital late this morning from her remote property in the Harrison Mills area. The BC Conservation Officer Service has confirmed that she remains in hospital in stable condition with injuries to her head, face, and arms. The animal responsible has yet to be located. This follows a series of cougar attacks on small dogs in the Tri-Cities over the last several months. We're getting a better idea of what may have led up to Saturday's broad daylight shooting in the Walmart parking lot on Scott Road. Delta police say the death of a 29-year-old Burke Randawa, a corrections officer, has all the markings of a gang hit. No one has been arrested. Police also say they're accepting video and photos from this case on their website so the public doesn't have to turn over their cameras or talk to an investigator if they're not comfortable. The pandemic-fueled real estate market continues to break records from Surrey to Mission. The Fraser Valley Real Estate Board says April set a new monthly all-time high for home sales in the region, marking the 8th consecutive month that's happened. That's also a new record, beating the previous longest stretch of record-breaking months for Fraser Valley home sales set back in 2016. Some developing sports news tonight. Professional hockey is returning to Abbotsford. The Vancouver Canucks have chosen the city to host their AHL farm team. Details are currently being finalized, and the deal needs to be approved by the AHL's Board of Governors on Thursday. Previously, Abbotsford was the host of the Calgary Flames farm team, the Abbotsford Heat, before that team folded. If all goes according to plan, the team will begin to play next season. For the past 8 seasons, the Canucks AHL affiliate has been based in Utica, New York.
Calls are growing louder for a nationwide lockdown to tackle India's deadly second coronavirus wave. Confirmed cases soared Tuesday to more than 20 million. This doctor, a chairman of a New Delhi hospital, says a lockdown should be imposed for a limited period to tackle the virus and break the chain of infection. Several states have imposed tougher restrictions. But that's not enough, says the leader of India's main opposition party. He tweeted that a lockdown is the only option, and he's accusing the federal government of actively helping the virus reach this stage, adding a crime has been committed against India. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's been slammed for his pandemic response, has said that states should only consider lockdowns as a last option. He's resisted a countrywide lockdown over concerns of the economic impact. International aid, including this fifth shipment from the U.S., continue to arrive in India.
These flights include health supplies, oxygen supplies, N95 masks, rapid diagnostic tests, and medicine.
The White House press secretary saying Tuesday more flights are on the way.
And we've directed our own order of AstraZeneca manufacturing supplies to India, allowing India to make over 20 million doses.
Canada has pledged support for India, including $10 million through the Red Cross. And some provinces are stepping forward with medical equipment to share.
Good afternoon.
Back to the U.S., President Joe Biden announcing a new goal of administering at least one vaccine to 70% of American adults by July 4th. As for vaccines, the U.S. is not planning to use.
We've already committed to work to send 60 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine to other countries, starting this month and into June. That means of all the vaccines we produced for the United States at that time, we'll have given about 10% to the rest of the world.
Biden not naming any countries that may receive those doses. Canada is still in vaccine talks with the U.S. Biden saying Tuesday he will have an update soon.
As long as there's a problem anywhere in the world, even if we solve it here, we're going to move as quickly as we can to get as many doses of Moderna and Pfizer as possibly can be produced and export those around the world.
Melissa Duggan, City News.
Vancouver's news is always available on the radio with News 1130 or online anytime at citynews1130.com. And your next edition of City News is later tonight at 11. Thanks for watching and have a great night.